tal, familia? My name is Rodrigo Garcia. I am the Artistic Director of Teatro Visión and your host for tonight. Bienvenidos a la Hora del Mitote. We thank you for joining us tonight to la Hora del Mitote. And we see you every Friday at 7 p.m. here on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We invite you to participate by sending us your comments, your questions, your good vibes. And I would like to start off by acknowledging that we are guests here on the ancestral homeland of the Wekma people who continue to live and thrive in our local community today. Me gustaría comenzar reconociendo que somos huéspedes aquí en la tierra ancestral del pueblo Muwekma Ohlone que continúa viviendo y prosperando en nuestra comunidad local hoy. And like every Friday, we have very special guests. And tonight, it's no different. Esta noche tenemos con nosotros a un gran artista and a great friend, Hector Armienta. Hola, Hector. Welcome.
Hola, es un placer estar contigo y con tu audiencia. Un placer, ¿no? And I will talk, y voy a platicar mejor en inglés porque tú sabes que yo soy puro pocho. Y sí, aunque está bien.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Cuando estoy hablando, hablo mejor, pero vamos a platicar en inglés.
Okay, perfecto. So, Hector, thank you very much. Thank you for accepting on your busy schedule because you're one of those people that just does not stop working and creating wonderful things. And we're going to hear all the things that you're doing. But first, I would like you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Hector Armienta and where did everything started?
Oh, long story. I've been around a long time, Rodrigo. But I'm going to try to make it short, okay? So I'm an LA guy, grew up in Los Angeles, and spent most of my life there until I was about 18, 19. And I started playing the piano when I was about 8 years old and got fascinated with the piano and with classical music. And then went to a couple of colleges, but graduated from a school called California Institute of the Arts, which is a really cool school. And if anybody's seen the movie Fame, it's like that. You got like the School of Dance, School of Theater, School of Music, School of Art, Film and Video. It's a very cool place. And then after that, did lots of different things. And then I started to get really serious about my music and got a couple of commissions and started my journey into writing opera. Before that, as I mentioned earlier, I used to write, R&B, some dance music, I was doing all of that. But then, I started writing opera. The first piece was a piece called Un Camino de Fe, which was the story of a true story about a young girl, a middle school kid, who she submitted a story about her life, about her family coming from Mexico and then coming to the United States and what that journey was like. And then after that, I decided to go get my master's at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music and stayed up here and just kept writing. And now I'm still doing opera. And I'm also artistic director of Opera Cultura, which is the only Latinx professional opera company in the country. And we're part of Opera America, and I'm also on the board of Opera America. And what else? And I've been with my husband for 20 years. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. That's fantastic. There are a lot of things that get my attention from your introduction. The first one is, why opera? It's amazing that at a very young age, you found this love for music through your piano, but why opera?
I think it's always because, as I mentioned before that I was working in musical theater, and I think part of it was my interest in storytelling. I like to tell stories. and I love theater. I love the power of live theater. Uh, when I went to the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, I was going to do a musical based on the life of my grandmother, Paula. And my professor said, "We don't teach you how to do musical theater. We teach you how to write opera." So he actually had me study Shakespeare for a while, the first year, just to better understand drama. And then I just find that with opera, there is a certain power in the storytelling. Specifically, when you do theater, for example, I'm just going to say straight theater, no music. You're relying on the text and on the actors. In opera, the orchestra is another character. It gives you information that the character doesn't necessarily know. I could give you a short example, but for example, if there's a love theme and it's established in the beginning between the couple, and you have this beautiful music, and then later on, the husband betrays her, right? Kind of like in La Llorona, my show, La Llorona. But the woman comes back, and she thinks he's still in love. But the orchestra, takes that melody, twists it, manipulates it, while the actress still thinks he's in love with me. But the music tells you it's that sort of foreboding, So it's almost like if you're watching a film, right? And you're and you're from the viewer's standpoint, you're inside the room, and then you see the door open, right? Just a little bit. Now there's no information other than the door opening, but the music can give you all kinds of emotions: dark, foreboding, happy, and that's what the orchestra does in opera. So it's the power of the orchestra in opera.
Now, something that I find fascinating about the work that you do is that you took one form of art, the opera, which has been traditionally very elitist, only for a selected group of people. And you have used it to, as a storytelling device, and in some stories, some very, personal stories. I mean, you created River, right? That it's
Rio de Mujeres, right?
Rio de Mujeres, that is based on women in your life. And I find just that very fascinating. Tell us a little bit about how do you came to merge and to adopt opera and use it to tell stories of our gente, our story, which is, I think that's very unique of the work that you do.
Yeah. Well, when you go thinking, I'm just going to think of it, talk specifically from a musical standpoint. Except for really indigenous music, a lot of the music that we hear in Mexico or Central America is based on Western harmony, right? And then there's also these other influences. There's the banda music, which is German. When the Germans came and took all the silver, and when they were mining, right? And then also jarocho music, which is influenced by when they brought African slaves, right? And then mariachi music, the rhythms, the syncopation is indigenous, but the harmonies are very Western. So without knowing, we already sort of acclimated to sort of Western music. But what the difference is that, when we sing it or when we perform it, there's a certain, Latino passion, that is unique. And so that's what I try to do in my work is I use the form of opera, the structure, but within that, I'll have corridos or rancheros, or I have, in my show La Llorona, I have the famous corrido La Llorona, but then I arrange it for a full choir. Because there's the question of, there are some composers, right, who, and I've had this conversation before, which is they kind of write for themselves, but I write for my audience. So it's important that my audience, there are threads, musical threads and narrative threads that they can relate to. Like in my other work, like Bless Me Ultima, which is based on Rodolfo Naya's epic novel, which Teatro Visión did did the premiere of his play, and then Zorro, which is based on it's a tale, but we haven't talked about Zorro. But Zorro, when I wrote Zorro, it's rooted in California history, and it's also rooted around the time of the Revolution. Which because during Spain, during the whole period, there was a lot of political turmoil, and because of that, the sort of the embers of revolution, Padre Hidalgo during that time, that allowed the revolution to happen. So I try to tell tales, present tales that people are going to like, that they know, but give some historical context, and make it relevant to my community. So.
In theater, for example, when we're talking about theater, and to give a very specific example, Shakespeare. Shakespeare has been performed millions times, and I've seen, and I was in a Shakespeare play that was set in the transition from Mexico being now the U.S. in the Mexican-American War. It was interesting. It was an interesting take on that. However, it was still Shakespeare, and people were wearing different clothes. And I've seen many versions. Someone did a version of Summer Night Dream set in the Mayan culture. But other than just changing the place where the action happens, in your case, it's not like that. Your case, when you develop the music, it's very intentional. Like you said, the music tells that part that the character doesn't. And it's not just, I'm going to make it a corrido so it sounds Latino, but it's more about the character and it serves the purpose. Am I right? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, there are so many, the Latino, Hispanic, Latinx culture is so rich and it is so diverse. So why not draw from that well, right? Why not bring those stories to the surface, as well as the music? When I, again, was working on Bless Me Ultima, I went to, there was an archive at the University of New Mexico. And I forget the name of the researcher, very famous researcher. And he actually did recordings. He went out and did recordings in the 1940s. So there were two sort of musical moments in Bless Me Ultima. And one is from a corrido that they sang at a bar. And another one was just a music that they would play on a, during a festivity, and so, yeah, that's what I try to do. And with Zorro has a corrido. It has it has a corrido. It has a mariachi piece. It has a piece based on flamenco music, which I co-wrote with someone because I was writing it, and they count, for those of you that are musicians here, they count in groups of 12, and that's like, it's a different world for us. So I co-wrote that with someone because I just, no matter how much I researched it, I was not getting it quite right. But so there has flavors of it in it, Yeah.
And what do you expect people to get when they see one of your pieces?
Well, I think with really any creator, there's two ways to go, and they're not necessarily exclusive. One is the creator of a work is giving a message, right? And it can be very sublime, it cannot be sort of direct, but they want that, the creator wants the audience to get that message, right? And then there is sort of the other approach where you allow the audience to come away with they can follow the story, but maybe the very end, they come out with their own conclusion. And so, and I guess the last thing I was going to say is what makes, theater powerful, I think, is the audience has to connect to the story, but also to the journey of the character or a character or the protagonist. They have to see themselves, on stage for them to empathize. They have to go on that journey, right? Yeah.
What has been your experience, from the audience that have seen your work? How have they reacted to seeing stories that they can relate to in a form that it's probably not very familiar? I mean, a lot of people in our community come to the theater, and sometimes it's the first time that they are in a theater. So theater is pretty new to them. But opera, again, with this history being not very accessible to certain communities, what has been your experience, or what have you experienced with the audience that come to see your work?
I think it depends on who's producing it. So when I first started Opera Cultura, the audience, it's a very small audience, and they didn't know what to make of it. But over the years, they know the company, and I usually go out at the end and I say hello. So there are people that I know. So over the years, more people have been accepting of it. And when we did Bless Me Ultima, because the novel's so well known, I mean, they didn't necessarily come because, Hector Armienta wrote an opera, but they came because of Bless Me Ultima, right? So we had people come as far as Reno and Fresno to come to see it. And then in Opera Southwest was the co-commissioner. I love your cat. I love your cat. So, yeah. So, with people, the Opera Southwest produced Bless Me Ultima, and Mr. Naya was from New Mexico, so he's just he was cultural icon. So they loved it. I mean, they had more Latinos come to see it than they had come to any of their shows, and they had sold out, and they had to add another performance. So it was their fifth. They had to add one more performance. So it was really gratifying for me to see that, and I think people underestimate people underestimate producers, and traditional producers, right? They underestimate the interest of the Latino community to come see their work. If it's about them, they will come. How many people? Everybody knows La Llorona. Well, not everybody. A lot of people know La Llorona. A lot of people know Bless Me Ultima, and I expect that when we do Zorro next year, that will do very well. So.
There was one piece that for me was, I really enjoyed it, which was Cuentos de Peregrinación. And that piece in particular was a very unique piece because it wasn't, you had actors acting, and then you had singers, opera singers singing. So, there was something hybrid and very interesting. It didn't feel like two separate things happening. It really, there was a communion between what was going on stage with the actors and what was happening with the musicians, with the opera singers.
Yeah. That was, I really credit a lot of that to Kinan Valdez. He, is a brilliant director, and as you know, he's the son of Luis Valdez. We were going to have a community piece. It was just going to be 5 songs, 5 arias, and we were collecting stories, and it was Kinan's idea to really weave them together to create sort of one overall narrative, So each aria focused on a specific, story, sort of, like como cantan en los corridos, right? And these were all video. The text was all from video interviews I did. People who lived in San Jose but came from Mexico. Most of them from Guadalajara. So that one is about this woman who came from, she crossed the frontera and everything she went through, and it was Kinan's idea to sort of, create sort of I don't know if this right term was an introduction to it, but to give it some context. And then through the workshops that he did with the community, they came up with the text. They did, yeah, as Hugo, and then it sort of it was the text got, of these people crossing and everything, and then the coyote gave the money to the singer, right, as if she was just crossed, and then she started singing about what happened to her. So that was, Kenan was just brilliant. And then the artwork, now of course I'm going to forget. I can't believe I can forget his name. Wonderful artist, visual artist, and he created those 5 pieces, and each piece was based on one of those arias. Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to see if I could find the name of the artist, because
Yeah. I can't believe I forgot his name. That's why I was when you get older.
Yeah, I was just looking at the images, and anyway, I remember it was. I took my parents to see that piece, and they loved it. And again, my mom particularly, she was a good to take the temperature of how engaged, because if it's not something that gets her attention, she falls asleep. Like, my dad, he always is very he pays attention to every single detail, but my mom is like, if it's not interesting to her, she falls asleep like 5 minutes in. And this time she was there, because even though my mom is not an immigrant from Mexico to the US, both of my parents migrated from a small pueblito in Mexico to the big city, which is it's a huge, or it was a huge thing for them. So that migrating experience was not so foreign for them. And seeing these stories on the stage and seeing people like them, it was particularly moving. And for me, it was that experience of like, wow, here we are, here and enjoying opera at the same time that we get to see our stories. And that's what, again, what is fascinating about the work that you do. And that's why I was asking you, what have you heard, or how the audience have reacted? Because again, I can tell you from my parents, when they saw that piece, they were fascinated, and they probably didn't even realize that they were watching opera.
Yeah. It's interesting. As I just think, talking personally as a composer, I write, I write traditional, in a very traditional form. I'm not a cutting edge composer in terms of my musical style, and I have the chops. I have the skill set to make it sound, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's to some extent hindered my career in certain ways. But the question is who, goes back to who you're writing for. And I'm writing for my community. They're my priority. And if I write some sort of really avant-garde, music, and then I don't see what, I don't see what the purpose is for me. And because, there was before me, there's Roberto Rodriguez, who wrote the first Frida. He was really the first opera composer. And then I think I'm the second one, and then there's other ones, really great other composers. But when I started, I felt, because I didn't initially, I never, I was writing, like I said, R&B and dance music. I didn't see, I had to write, Latino music, you know what I'm saying? But as I started writing opera and I looked around, I said, I have this responsibility. I have a responsibility to do this. And it's maybe the next generation, they can write whatever they want to write and whatever style for whoever. but it's part of my responsibility. It's part of my legacy to do that. And I think that's why I've chosen works that, except for my, like Rio de Mujeres and then La Muerte, which is the third part of my trilogy. All my other works have some brand recognition. So I know that an audience will come and they will be exposed to opera and see the power of opera. And hopefully they'll also, see other works, other great operatic works, so.
Well, definitely you're also widening the entrance for people to enjoy this form, this artistic form, and what a better way but through stories that they can relate to. That's amazing. I want to take a moment, Hector, to just say hi to the people who are listening and watching us. Nuestro amigo Luis Castillo. Hola, amigos. Luis, it's a great artist too. He's a videographer and a photographer. He does amazing work. Hola, Luis. Saludos. Tamara. Hola, Hector y Rodrigo. I love to see this collaboration. Mali Familia 2. I think we we met in Mali. What a wonderful experience.
I know.
And Aidet Mopone, I love to think of an opera with Latin passion, where I can see some of your work. Well, we have operacultura.org, and I strongly recommend you, Aidet, to sign up for their newsletter and just follow them on Facebook, because in the next half, Hector will be sharing with us of his newest work. But he always does a very good job in keeping us up to date of his work. Luis Castillo, flamenco. I need more flamenco in my life. There you go.
I wrote a piece for La Tanya. You might know La Tanya. It was a flamenco piece called La Tormentada.
La Tormentada. Orale.
Yeah, very cool. She was amazing flamenco artist.
Would that be available in your website?
Yeah, you just YouTube La Tormentada, and it'll come up. She was just great.
Great. And Tamara sharing Opera Cultura. Maribel is Mali family. Un abrazo, Maribel. Also a graduate from Mali. I think it was Mali 5, but I might be mistaken. A great artist too. Her storytelling skills are just full. She's amazing and an amazing friend. And Mali class 2, the Golden Years. Yes, Tamara, thank you. It only took me 2 weeks to remember that we were years.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. The first year was great, but the second year, boom.
Yes. Here we were, the Golden Years, and Maribel 6.
Wow.
There you go. Pura familia de Mali. Thank you. And I want to remind folks that La Hora del Mitote se transmite cada viernes a las 7 de la noche por nuestra página de Facebook and our channel on YouTube. And every week we have great guests who come here to share their work and their passion for what they do. And tonight we are having this wonderful conversation con un gran artista y un gran amigo, Hector Armienta. So let's now talk about I think I need to indulge myself in this little bit. La Llorona. I had the great privilege of being in that piece. And let me tell you, first I saw it when you did it at Western Stage. I thought it was...
Were you there? Wow.
I watched it.
Did you come with us? I know Tamara and I drove down there. I remember that.
Yeah. I was there. And then I worked backstage when you first brought it to Mexican Heritage Plaza. So I was pulling all the cords and I was just fascinating seeing it from the wings. And this last time, a couple of years ago, I I had the honor to
You see what I have? You see what I have in the background?
Oh my God, el penacho.
You see that? The headdress, right?
Yes, that
You were awesome. You were awesome. Now that is from before. That's from a photo shoot we did to promote La Llorona. Yeah, and there's wonderful Carla Pantoja. And she was the original La Llorona at the Western Stage Theater.
And this
there she is. Yeah, there she is. Yeah. Oh, I didn't think you had that picture. That is so cool. Yeah.
So it was amazing.
Yeah, and it was to New York. It was to New York for
yes, that's right.
To New York for 2010 or 12, I think.
Latia, or what's the name of the company?
It was I don't remember. It was a Latino theater. Yeah. It was a co-production with Opera Cultura and them. Great director. Of course, again, I can't remember his name. Jose. Yeah, amazing. And it was it was a much smaller cast, and it was a tiny little stage, but very inventive. Very inventive.
I remember I invited my coworkers. They all came to support, and they were in awe. They literally they thought, oh my God, we thought that because it was opera, it was gonna be typical, that it's all streaming, but they were very moved by the story.
Yeah. Well, that's a interesting story because I wrote it's part of my trilogy, right? And so in River of Women, based on my grandmother's life, La Llorona appears and takes the daughter to the river, or the underworld. I always think of it like the underworld. And that really started the journey for me to explore who La Llorona was. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote La Llorona was going to be a sort of official opera. But I couldn't get a commission. So Western Stage Theater, Becky Nelson was my accompanist when I did a workshop in San Francisco. And she says, and I said, Becky, I can't find anybody who's going to commission me to do the opera. She said, well, talk to Western Stage. And then we went down for coffee. I met John Sullivan and the administrator there. And it was at a Starbucks, like in Gilroy somewhere. No, Gilroy? Anyway, and I said, well, it's really an opera, but, he says, well, Hector, you write it in the way that you want to. And I thought, oh, Sweeney Todd. I'll write it like Sweeney Todd. Because Sweeney Todd is like an opera, but people don't know it, right? So he said, well, how much? I said, well, I'm trying to get a commission. He goes, well, how much do you want? And I threw this big figure, and and then he says, okay, well, we'll think about it. I'm like, oh, bummer. I screwed that up. So I walked back to my car, really sad. And then he says, wait, Hector. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to raise some money. Yeah. So they produced it. And Carla sang, and she was just, it's great, good singer, but amazing actress. And the scenes where she just goes mad, and then she kills the mistress, Carmela, Yeah. They did a great, they spent a lot of money on that production. More than Opera Cultura.
Big production.
Yeah, remember they had the pyramid, and then the water ran down the pyramid.
Yes.
That was wild.
I really enjoy it, and then I also enjoy River of
Women. Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And I staged, which is the other the byproduct. I've stage directed my pieces, but I would only stage direct my pieces because I know how I see them. Mm-hmm. I would never stage direct anything else, But River of Women, it's a really interesting piece. And all of the trilogy, River of Women, La Llorona, La Muerte, the running theme, and I think for me too, but it's become more, I don't want to talk too much. How much time we got? Okay.
We have time.
I think that my fascination with when I do River of Women is my fascination with the things that exist with us, but that we don't see. The things that move us from here to there. And in La Llorona, she's portrayed as this horrible, it's also who tells the stories, right? Which are the men. The men always tell the stories, and the women are always these, brujas, these evil people, and we've got to burn them and all this stuff. Which well, let's get into the topic. But I wanted to think about why are there, there's these women in the story sometimes where you hear about them killing their children, or all this, or how La Llorona is told. And the question is, what would drive anyone to do something like that? And then I started to think about whether or not, like in the story of Oedipus Rex, where, for those of you here who don't know the stories about, well, I won't go into all of it, but the king marries his mother, right? But the king actually had killed his father, but it was the gods that sort of, move things, right? So for me, in La Llorona, it's, takes, I don't want to talk too much, but it's the exploration about if we are really in control of our fate, or is our fate already been preset? And so for me, in La Llorona, her life was already determined much early on. And so she's just playing her part. She's like a pawn, being moved from here to there by the gods. And in the trilogy, it's the power of water, of the river, and it controls the fate of all the characters. So
amazing, an amazing piece that I hope it comes back at some point, because it's truly a beautiful piece, and all the pieces that you've done. And before we go into most recent work, there is a new project that you're starting, La Escuela. Tell us a little bit about it.
So La Escuela. So this kind of an outgrowth for Opera Cultura. It's an outgrowth of our work with youth, working at the Hub, which is mostly for foster youth, and then also because of the project Mi Camino, which is about farm workers, which will be in June. We wanted to do a residency, online residency for young people from the farm working community. And back in the day, I made my living as a teaching artist, teaching in schools and all kinds of stuff. And I had not been teaching for many years. And one of the teachers, it didn't work out. She was going to teach a class, so I jumped in, and it sort of reignited the passion for me of not just providing programming for kids, but also how it really there are so many opportunities they don't get. And it's not just training, but also work. So La Escuela, the goal is to develop a semi-vocational school for 18 to 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, where they will get training, and then some of them will actually get work in our productions, but also create a resource for other arts organizations to hire them, and to change the dynamic about who gets seen on stage, people, getting more people of color on stage and more people to work backstage, as well as, later on to get training in some of the new, sort of virtual production stuff you and I talked about earlier, because, I think it's important, it's important. And so La Escuela is going to be, to answer your question short, it's going to be a 12-week program in the fall, one in singing, one in technical theater, and some of them will graduate. Then they'll graduate, and some of them will be hired for oral production. And then in year 2, hopefully a 24-week program where it will also include virtual production for set design. So that's the goal.
Amazing. You don't cease to amaze me, and particularly, I share your interest to create this pipeline for starting at at a younger age, to make sure that we have representation and that we have prepared people to be on stage and backstage and be the designers that we need, that know how to approach our concepts, etc. I think it's fascinating. So tell me, how do people get to participate? How will what would be the process for someone interested to be part of this project?
So in August is when we will start taking applications. And the reason August is because we're waiting on funding. So we did just get, we got some national funding to support it, and we're halfway there. I'm pretty confident we're going to get the other half. We're just waiting to hear. So if they're interested, just send an email to info@operacultura.org, and then we will put them on the list.
And also for those people who are watching us, donations are always welcome to support this wonderful work that Opera Cultura is doing under the leadership of Hector Armienta. You can just go on the website and find the donate button, and also visit their Facebook page. And you can make one donation, you can make monthly donations, and every little bit helps. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
So
thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to this wonderful project. Thank you very much. So now, the new project, Hector. I've been very curious about it and very excited and looking forward to the project. But I'm also enjoying very much the process that you have been sharing with all of us through your Facebook posts. And for folks who are watching us, we have a clip. And Hector, I don't know what part would you like me to play it. I don't know if you like to play it now.
So Mi Camino is a 12-minute piece that takes place in the virtual world. So after we show it, I'll explain more. How's that?
Okay, let's watch it. How long is the clip?
Oh, it's like 1 or 2 minutes at most. It's really short. It's just and I'll explain it what they're seeing after, so a little more.
Enjoy this little bit and stay for the explanation of what this is. Bravo.
It's so wild to see that. Yeah. So let me tell your viewers what they just saw. So that is a software program, and I'm testing the scene. It's not what the final piece will look like. So if you were watching in the view, there's a view screen, and then around it are all the key commands, as if you were like in some other program like Adobe or something. But you won't see any of that. And as I mentioned to you earlier, Rodrigo, the other part I didn't mention was that when I was working on La Llorona as a side thing, I'm not working on La Llorona, but about maybe 4 years ago, I was thinking, it'd be really cool to create a video game about La Llorona. So as a hobby, I was exploring this software that they use to make video games. And when the pandemic happened and we weren't going to be able to do anything live, I said, well, why don't we do something in the virtual world? So out of that, I started a company called HA Creative, which is really my initials. And it's going to be a Latinx animation studio. The inaugural will be in July. But this is sort of a precursor to it. So I created the virtual world, and the virtual world is Half Moon Bay, the scene in Half Moon Bay. It's a scene in Gilroy. And when it's complete in June, the viewers will see the singers singing them, because we recorded them already. So they'll be in that virtual world moving around. And then they'll also have their counterpart, the avatars. So we didn't see the avatars, so I created the avatars also. So they'll be interacting. So the goal is to sort of take that technology and use it in live production. So
I'm just in awe listening to what you're explaining. Tell us more about what Mi Camino is about.
Yeah. So Mi Camino is a story of farm workers in the pandemic. And I was going to do something earlier before the pandemic. it was going to be focused on DACA and on dreamers. And I was going to interview young people here, and then there were some places in Mexico City that, those that had been deported were, trying to deal with being deported. And then because of COVID, that couldn't happen, and also because other stuff. So I remember seeing images of these farm workers. Maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. But I remember seeing images of them working with all of the smoke and all of that. And I also felt before that their story was not being told of what was happening to them. So I interviewed them. I had a wonderful videographer. I can't now remember his name, of course. It works for, I think, NBC News. He actually went out, and I interviewed them virtually. And so each of them told me their stories. And so their stories I turned into arias. There's a story of these two young ladies. One went to San Jose State, one went to San Francisco State. They only worked in the summers, but then when COVID happened, they had to leave school. And so it's their story. It's the story of a man who owns a farm in Gilroy, in Half Moon Bay, where he lost he almost lost his farm because the food he couldn't sell his food. There's a story of his sister who gave up her dreams really to help him. The story of a woman who lost all her work. The song is called El 10 de Marzo. On 10th of March, she was cleaning houses and she lost all her work. So it's her stories. These are the stories of in the arias. Yeah. So.
And how would you be presenting it? Would this be like a special engagement?
Yes,
how will people be able to enjoy it?
Yeah. So June 11th and June 13th, we're airing it on Eventive, and there's a link on our website. It's free. We take donations, but it's free. On the 11th, there's a Q&A with the singers and the production personnel, and then it's airing again on Sunday. So those 2 dates.
Sorry, tell us the dates again. June 11th.
June 11th and June 13th, and the event, and it's free. They just need to sign up. They'll get an email, and then they just go to the link on the day of.
I'm so looking forward to it. And I know that Deborah Rosengos, she is one of the artists there. And
Yes.
if you see a lot of noise, it's my cat that doesn't let me. Oh my God. If there's something that I've learned during this pandemic is how to deal with cats, but I'm still not able to do it. So anyway, it is what it is. So I'm so looking forward to this work, Hector, and to see the work of all the people who participate, but especialmente Deborah, who's a very talented mezzo soprano, right?
Yeah, mezzo soprano, and she actually played the part in River of Women. She played the part of La Llorona at the very end.
Yes,
she plays the daughter. Yeah.
That's how we met her. That's how we met her, and then we.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We stole it for our Macario.
You did. Well, share the wealth. That's what I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have
a wonderful soprano also, Cecilia Lopez. Actually, I go to film her in Albuquerque in a couple of weeks, and then a tenor, Emmanuel Mercado, actually from Mexico, but he's now in Modesto. So it's really great talent, really great talent.
Amazing. And you always get to bring these amazing artists, which is it's just fascinating. You can tell that I'm a big fan of your work.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Rodrigo. I appreciate it.
Tamara, I don't have favorites, but you are all special. Come on, Tamara, just say it. We are your favorite.
We all know. Yeah.
I think all the Mali folks are fantastic. And last week I had an opportunity to have Omar Rodriguez from Mali to
Marketing.
makers.
Yeah, he was with us. Wasn't he with us that year? He was
No,
with us.
no, he was in like three or
Yeah,
four.
it was Soriano, and then there was Adrian, and
Adrian,
yeah, who else was there?
Adi, and
That's
my
right. Yeah, it was a fun group. It was
and
very educational. It was a momentous sort of program for me. I think it came at a good time. Thank you, Tamara.
yeah,
Came at a very good time. Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Diane, hola.
Diane, oh my God. How are you? Oh, look at the granddaughter.
She also stage managed, I think, a couple of your shows.
She did. She did. She's a taskmaster, but she knows her stuff. She's the best in the business.
She knows how to get things done,
Yeah.
and she says beautiful.
Oh, thank you,
Uh,
David.
Luis Castillo, he's very
Thank
awesome.
you, Luis.
This after he saw the clip. Another amazing year, yes. Melissa Luxing was
That's right, Melissa. That's right. Yeah, I see her every once in a while on Instagram. Yeah.
Tamara, Hector, you know Diane Vega loves you because she's here.
Yeah.
Of course she is.
True, yeah.
And Hugo,
Hey, Hugo, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
it's
Alrighty.
great, Hector. It's great to have these conversations. Something that I think I share, or a lot of people share this feeling. You know, a lot of our artists share this feeling of this past year not being able to do what we were used to doing in the way we were used to do it. And here you are leveraging even from like, okay, you know, nothing is going to stop my creativity, and I'm going to find a way to continue doing what I do. And now finding this new realm and continue to widening the doors for more people to come through. It's really amazing, Hector. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I guess the closing, I would just, my mom was really inspirational for me, and whenever I would say or do say, I'm tired, I don't know. She's just, she doesn't say in these words, but she just says, "Get over it," in her own special way. Actually, you got nothing to be crying about, And I think, in my lifetime, and I was even thinking about this a couple of days ago for another reason, which we won't go into, is we can't, when doors are closed for us, we need to create our own opportunities. We need to create our own home and our own place, and not wait for someone to give us permission to do what we are supposed to do. And so for those of you, and hopefully other people later on, is continue, and it may be difficult sometimes, but stay true to what you need to do.
And your message really resonates with me, and I hope that it resonates particularly with a lot of young folks of color who don't see representation, that they don't see themselves reflected on, mainstream art. And I think, yes, it is frustrating, it's sad, but I really love what you're saying. That should not be a reason for you to not continue being creative and finding a way to express yourself and creating your own opportunities. I think that's very, very powerful, Hector. And you're a very good example of getting into a form of art that has not been traditionally inviting and welcoming of a lot of folks. And now you just not only bring it to them, but use it as a way to also tell the stories, which are, it's very, very important that we continue to lift our stories, stories of resilience, the stories of love, and also the complexities of who we are, because we're not, these beautiful, artesanias that people can have. We are complex individuals, but all that makes our beauty, and how wonderful to be able to show and to experience that through the art of opera. Anything else that you would like to add, Hector?
No, I guess the only thing is that we're at an age in where because of technology, is that we have a wider platform to do what we want to do. So,
well,
we have no barriers.
Well,
no barriers.
We're looking forward to seeing Un Camino de Fe en junio 11 y 13.
No, Mi Camino. It's just called Mi Camino.
Perdón, Mi Camino.
Yeah, Un Camino de Fe was something earlier. Yeah. It's called
yes. Mi Camino, which is premiering on June 11th and 13th. And folks who want to experience that, who want to enjoy it, can go to operacultura.org and also find Opera Cultura and Hector Armienta on Facebook, and just, like the pages and get all the updates. This is wonderful. And I imagine, las familias watching Mi Camino, Un Camino. No, it's Mi Camino, correct?
Mi Camino, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Whatever you want to call it, as long as they get on the website, I'm good. Mi Camino, Nuestro Camino, I don't care. Just June 11th, June 13th, be there.
Yes, we definitely want to be there. Thank you so much, Hector. Gracias por aceptar esta invitación from the bottom of my heart. I consider you a good friend, and I admire your work tremendously.
Likewise. Well, continue the good work, Rodrigo, and Teatro Visión is lucky to have you.
Thank you, and we're lucky to have you. Thank you, and to all the people who work with us tonight. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m. a la Hora del Mitote with new guests. And just share the love and share this La Hora del Mitote tonight with your friends who were not able to join us, but they can still enjoy it. And we'll see you on June 11 and 13 en la gran premiere de Mi Camino con Hector Armienta y Opera Cultura. Un abrazo, muy buenas noches. Un abrazo, Héctor, and we'll see you soon.
All right.